Hey, it's A Humble Collector here, and today's video we are taking a look at probably the largest relic in my collection. This is actually part of a DShK gun shield that was recovered on the Seelow Heights. So we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the DShK, go into a little bit about the Battle of the Seelow Heights, and actually take a closer look at the relic itself. Now, normally I would film my videos on my dining room table, but this is far too big, hence why we're in my living room now. Now, the DShK itself is a 12.7 millimeter heavy machine gun, originally developed and designed in the Soviet Union back in the 1920s, and it was actually upgraded in 1938, shortly before World War II. And during the war, I believe there's somewhere about 9,000 of these were produced, and they were used in various roles. They were used for anti-aircraft especially, but also some of them were mounted on wheeled carriages, much like the Maxim Model 1910, and provided with gun shields and actually used in an infantry support kind of role. Now, obviously, 12.7 millimeter round, which is comparable to the Western Allies 50 caliber round, is pretty hefty. It's good against, lightly entrenched infantry, lightly armored vehicles, and it's also a very big gun. So one source I found online said that the DShK fully loaded on the wheeled carriage with the shield would weigh over 350 pounds, which works out to about 158 kilograms for any of my metric viewers. And yeah, so overall, it's a pretty cool gun. Served throughout World War II, and then after World War II has served in dozens of conflicts since then. Most recently, it's seen use in Ukraine during the Russo-Ukrainian War. So yeah, even though we're now almost 100 years on for its development and still in use, much like the Browning M2, which is also still being used. Now, this particular shield, I was told, was found on the area of the Seelow Heights battle. Now, the Battle of the Seelow Heights was part of the beginning of the Berlin Strategic Offensive, which was the final push of the Soviet armies into Berlin, which ultimately led to the downfall of the city and its capture, and, subsequently the defeat of Nazi Germany. Now, what's really cool is my friend Readout actually did a very nice 30-minute video talking about the entire Berlin offensive and focusing on the Seelow Heights in the early part. So definitely go give that a watch if you haven't seen it yet. I'll link it up there. But the actual battle that took place on the Seelow Heights lasted over 3 days, from April 16th, the beginning of the offensive, to April 18th. And this was a massive battle. You're looking at over 1 million Soviet soldiers and over 3,000 Soviet tanks, attacking German entrenched positions being held by about 100,000 German soldiers and roughly 600 German tanks. To say nothing of the amounts of artillery, mortars, and heavy machine guns that were involved in the fighting. So, absolutely massive battle. It's actually one of the last big battles to take place over a, entrenched line during the Second World War, like a previously prepared position like that, which is pretty neat. Now, of course, being a relic, I didn't see it come out of the ground. I can't prove it's from the Seelow Heights, but there was certainly a lot of material lost there and still a lot of stuff being recovered today, so it's certainly possible. So, what's really neat about this piece, of course, is the battle damage on it. As we can see here, if I come into frame briefly and flip this around, it looks to me, this is the front of the shield, by the way. It looks to me like some kind of round hit here, maybe like an armor piercing or something, and it just completely cracked the shield. Who knows what happened to the other half of it? That was not being sold by the person I bought it from. And interestingly enough, we actually have a bullet hole here that came through the back of the shield, which is a bit unusual. Now, granted, no way to tell what orientation this landed in or how exactly that all worked out, once the gun was taken out. Of course, like I said earlier, being, a heavy machine gun, this was obviously a big target for the Germans that were defending the Seelow Heights because, if the enemy's wheeling up a 50 caliber or 12.7 millimeter machine gun and you're hiding behind, a fence or maybe a couple sandbags, or you're sitting in a lightly armored vehicle, this is going to really wreck your day. So based off that, it looks like either artillery or, maybe a tank or something managed to lob a shell into the shield and knock out the gun. And pieces like this, they make me wonder about the people kind of involved in the events that these pieces kind of relate to. So the Soviet gun crew on this most likely were killed in whatever cataclysmic explosion destroyed the shield and the gun it was attached to. And, you have to wonder about them. Were these relatively new conscripts that were filling, the many casualties the Red Army took, on the road to Berlin? Were these battle-hardened soldiers that had fought, from the Volga all the way to, Berlin, to the gates of Berlin, only to die there? You know, and also the German soldiers who were facing this gun and who took it out, were they battle-hardened veterans of the Eastern Front who'd, you know, survived 100 battles and were now with their backs against the wall with Berlin behind them? You know, were they members of the Volkssturm or fresh recruits who'd really never seen combat before and now been thrust into this apocalyptic final battle? It really does make you think, and that's what I love about, you know, battlefield dug pieces, but particularly battle damage pieces as well. So it's definitely one of my favorite pieces in my collection, and of course, if you don't know what it is, it just looks like a big hunk of metal, and I guess to an extent it is, but it's a hunk of metal that tells a really interesting story and can really drive home the impact and the cost of the Second World War. So I really like it. Like I said, it's a big piece, takes up a lot of room in the collection room, but it's one of my favorites. And I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Please leave a comment down below. Love hearing from you guys. Thank you all for watching. Happy collecting, and I will see you all again very soon.